Hey everyone, Cory Miller from A2 Hosting. In this video, we want to share some insights we've gathered from talking to many agency owners about the challenges they face. But listen, you're probably used to the typical hosting company partner program mantra, which is, what can you do for us? At A2 Hosting, we want to start that conversation completely different. How can we support you? We'll begin by asking about your challenges and understand where you are, with the goal to collaborate with you, ensuring that when you win, we win too. We're here to be your agency's hosting team, ready to support you every step of the way. That's what we're calling at A2 our new community growth team, which is really our agency growth team. Hey everybody, today, Katie Richards and I, part of the community growth team, agency growth team at A2 Hosting, wanted to talk about some of the challenges we've heard in the last couple of months and over our careers working with agency owners, about the challenges, issues, and problems you run into as an agency owner, and real quickly introduce ourselves and tell you about our team that is focused on your growth as an agency owner and collaborating with you. We're here for you. Now, we don't have all the answers, but we know you sharing those with us is going to help us help you. This is, think about our community growth team, Katie, as the team you didn't know you had. And A2 has put together the resource budget and then recruited both of us to be a part of and lead the community growth team at A2. And really what that means to me, Katie, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is we care about agency owners. It's not a one-sided relationship, and we want to be, at our hearts, collaborators. How can we help? We want to be the bridge, the conduit to the actual hosting that you need to run your agency. But also, our team is about the +1. So we want to make sure that's taken care of, those essentials, hosting. But then the +1 is where you and I can leverage our network, our experience, our expertise to help agency owners with their problems. But that really hits home to the work you and I have done for the last couple years and over our career. But what are your thoughts as we start this conversation around the challenges that our agency owners face?
My first thought is that while our team is new, this is not a new position for A2 to be taking. A2 Hosting has been working really closely with customers over many years to collaborate and listen to concerns, and which is why we recently launched TurboHub that has a lot of answers and solutions for agency owners who want to manage projects more effectively. So it's not a new thing. The budget is new, the team is new, but the care behind that forward motion is not new.
And it's different. You and I getting to know A2, Brian Mutig, our founder of 21 years now, our leadership team, key people in our company. We're just sharing what's been true all along, but mostly it's a hidden secret. And our job is to get that message out and connect and collaborate with agency owners. So I know between you and I, we really do care about agency owners, particularly WordPress agency owners. We know a lot of those. We count those as our dear friends, many of them as our dear friends. But I want to talk a little bit about our experiences and what we've been hearing and seeing as we've been talking to agency owners the last couple months here at A2. So when I say that, tell me a little bit about tell everybody else, I already know it, your background about working with agency owners.
Yeah. Well, you and I have a little bit of a cross section when it comes to experience working with agency owners, specifically that both of us have spent time at PostStatus. I worked there for about 4 years before you took leadership position there. But it was my first introduction beyond just like social interactions at WordCamps and things with folks who were in leadership positions at agencies, and watching them collaborate with other folks in leadership and talk about some of the things that they were concerned about, progress they'd loved WordPress to make itself, kind of putting all their minds together to get that forward motion for the WordPress project. So that was my first introduction. And then I moved over to another hosting provider who was spinning up a customer advocacy program. And I would say about 90% of the folks in my advocacy program were agency owners or founders or leaders of some sort. That can be like project management leadership, but also C-suite and director level stuff. So the goal there is, I mean, the same goal that you and I have talked about multiple times is that it's a collaborative process. No relationship is one-sided, and one-sided relationship is probably not one that you want to get into if you're thinking about, friends or close relationships. And it's the same with businesses. If you try to push things into a one-sided relationship, it's going to start draining one party over the other. And it's not going to last. It's not going to be good for anybody. So that was my goal then, and it's my goal now, is when I'm working with agencies and agency owners to make these kinds of interactions as beneficial as possible. So yeah, we want feedback as a company. We want to hear your direction and your concerns and what you want out of our product, but we also want to leverage our industry knowledge, our internal contacts here at A2. It's like, hey, you have some direct feedback for a specific thing. We can point you in the right direction, and those kinds of things. And that's, I think, another reason that you and I are so excited about this podcast project, is it's giving us an opportunity to introduce folks that we know in the WordPress space to folks that you may not know, and kind of share their level of expertise with people.
Yeah, I think about that going back. You mentioned post status, and I've been working with freelancers and agencies for a while now at my previous company, iThemes, but at post status, I really got to see through the lens of the agency owner and looking out there and going, it's tough, one, to just run a business. Yeah. You know this intimately well, being married to an entrepreneur and being an entrepreneur yourself. But also the role of an agency in the work they do. It's often under the label of marketing. Mm-hmm. A lot of businesses and organizations think about their website and they're thinking it connects in, rightly so, connects in with their goals for their business. But there's problems with that work. I've personally seen, and this is where through the work at Post Status, just really talking to agency owners, there's this feast and famine. The topic about MRR and recurring revenue has been big for the last long time, I should say, for a good reason, because the feast and famine, you build a website project, maybe you charge $25,000, you get paid for the work, and then you're going to look for new work. Mm-hmm. And that up, down, I know this from my micro time as a freelancer back in 2006 and 2007. You're always hunting for the next work if you're just focusing on the website project work. But the second is that sales and marketing. And a lot of the agency owners I know are so proficient technically. They can do so many good things and use WordPress to utilize that for their clients' needs. But there's a problem with the business, and obviously clients don't understand this. They don't care. They're trying to get their work done. But for the agency owner, that up and down is tough. So I know I've heard specifically in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, but it's ongoing, it's to combat the feast famine revenue. Yeah. The hard thing about business is there's money and people. It's always going to be tough. But that's a recurring theme I hear is, even if it's not always spoken, the reality is they've got to pay bills. They've got to pay themselves. They've got to pay their team. And that up and down is pretty jarring.
Yeah. I have a little bit different perspective as well. For the last more than a year now, I've been acting as a project manager for a couple of different agencies in the WordPress and Drupal space. I'd love to say that WordPress and Drupal are more alike than they are different. Other than, the technical aspects of the CMS itself, the concerns are the same. Regardless of what CMS you're building your website with, agencies struggle with staffing, with finding good talent, retaining good talent, training talent that has possibility, and then making sure that they are adequately staffed across projects. If you're managing multiple big builds or rebuilds or long-term maintenance clients all at the same time. Keep scope and scope creep, isn't it?
Let me come back to that one. Yeah. I love that one. That's such a great, I remember talking, and hiring my first employee or two or three,
Yeah,
and it's kind of a gamble,
it
right?
really is.
Because you do your work, you try to find somebody, but it's I can see an agency owner, and we've heard this, they're trying to do, bigger, better work, more profitable work, more fulfilling work. Sometimes that means, okay, they need to go find a skill set to help them scale. You're absolutely right. I was thinking about that. I think about the core is like money, right? And that is a true thing. But then that nuance of like, I need to be able to deliver the work. And we've heard that over and over. It's how do I find that? This is where post status came into with the job listings is, okay, I need someone that can do, I think you mentioned maintenance. So someone that I know I can take my eyes off this so I can work on this bigger project, but it might have a skill set I don't exactly think I have, whatever that might be, right? And they need to go source that talent. And that's increasingly hard today. It's always been hard, but I think it's even harder, with the economy, world economy like it is, finding different pockets where you might look at a team member in the Philippines or in Europe, and you've got time differences to deal with, not just skill sets and things like that, ordinary business issues, staffing issues, but finding the right person to do the job that you can trust.
Yes. And if you find the person you can trust, but that they have the aptitude for learning, how do you train them up to learn the skill that they need to know to keep your business moving? Because I am a huge fan of lifelong learning and finding a way for teams to grow together so that everybody is leveling up their skill set is hard as well. Thinking at it from a project management, time management perspective, how do you set aside time in your staff schedule to do those learning activities, to level up their skills, to level up your business without cutting into your client time?
Yeah. So my wife, as you know, runs an agency. It happens to be a marketing agency, but she uses WordPress in that agency. And I know, okay, they're talking to a client. They really want to grab that client. And in this whole staffing conversation, one of the key beyond trust and know they can deliver the work is consistency. And with humans, that's a variable, right? Somebody you thought, locked in, great, delivers work, still needs their own kind of maintenance from an ownership to the team perspective, making sure they feel fulfilled. Are they rewarded adequately for the work they're done, balancing all that stuff? But that ultimate is like consistency. They, the agency owners and my wife included go, you want to be able to sleep better at night. And part of that is knowing you have a team you can rely on and trust. So we hear staffing quite a bit. Thank you for sharing that. It's one I miss when I go straight to the nuts and bolts, but this is a huge nuts and bolts thing, a part of an agency.
Yeah, I would say that as a project manager, my perspective on an agency is a little bit different because I'm not building the projects. I'm not necessarily working in the sales and marketing, although I do have some experience and have spent time working on scope of the projects and things like that. But keeping all the balls in the air from whatever seat you're currently sitting in, I think is a fairly good representation of what agency life is. If you're, one or two people strong, the agency owner is going to wear a lot of hats, be juggling a lot of things. If you're 5 people, it's going to be a different perspective. But those concerns are there. They're just a little bit more spread out.
Well, you mentioned hats. It's such a good description. So many agency owners start out just themselves, maybe an independent contractor, and it grows bigger and they get bigger projects. I think about one of the agencies we know mutually that redesigned and launched the NASA.gov website in WordPress this year. And hearing his story, he goes back as an independent contractor for some of the government agencies, and that morphed into it. Mm-hmm. But like, some point, these agency owners are wearing all these hats. They're taking one off, putting another one, taking it off, putting another, and switching gears. For me, that's tough. Like I need to focus on one thing, get that done, then go to another thing. But I think that goes to the complexity of the issue that agency owners deal with is, okay, I'm trying to make sure there's fuel in the tank, there's money. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to make sure that people are here, good, can deliver consistent work. And those hats, that's super confusing. Why I have so much empathy for them. I live with an agency owner, so I don't know how she juggles all the hats, takes off all the hats. I'm like, you need a big hat with different versions of it that you just wear all the time, but I can't do that. But one thing you mentioned, I want to, because I've heard this specifically from 2 agency owners almost in a row, is project management. And now when we got to pull you onto the team, you and I are the team, I was like, oh, wow, a relief. I need someone with your skill sets and organization to keep things on track, on the rails. And I've heard recently, I said like almost back to back, is the biggest need I hear was project management. So we talked about money and we talked about the people to deliver the work. Now we're getting into the gears of how an agency functions. You got to keep everything on track. That's one of your specialties, of course. And so we're going to be talking about that soon, specifically giving some tips about how me learning to release some of my things I've got to strangle home to a great project manager that keeps everything kind of organized and on track, including myself. But how does that land to you when you talk about, you've been a project manager working with agencies, getting projects going and flowing, but what stands out there when we talk about that role of the agency owner and their challenges?
I would say if I were in the role of an agency owner, a project manager is my partner, my operations arm to make sure things keep moving. My project manager is going to help me listen to my people, listen to my clients, respond to clients' needs faster and better. And you've learned this since starting to work with me, Cory, is I love systems and processes that make our work easier and more repeatable. And I think most project managers have that desire too, to have something, structure set up so that when it's time to start something new, you're not starting from the ground. You're starting, 20% done. And you know what the flow is, you know what you're looking at for the future, you know how long different phases are going to take. So it's been a joy for me starting a brand new team with brand new processes. And it's, different than building a website. But essentially, it's the same. It's how do you get from A to B to C to finished product? So it really is kind of a lot of the same skills transferable across things.
This is a thing I've readily admitted to you, but try to others, is like, I'm not good at this part. I can get things started. I can get things rolling, but someone, and it's not me, obviously, needs to be able to go, okay, you started these 5 things. Now we need the B, the C, the D. Yeah, we were just talking on the pre-recording is, we were talking about these and, you're like, hey, I got to check in here, check in there. And I remember when we were talking about this, and I'm only sharing the story because I want to, really illuminate how important the project management role is. A lot of the agency owners probably assume that in the beginning, and then it's like they need to go where their talent and their skill is best used for the agency. But I remember Paul, our COO and team going, we want to get you, we think you need a project manager. And I kind of breathed a sigh of relief and I was like, I need one. I need somebody. I was like, I don't even know yet what I'm doing, but who do you need to do? And they, well, you remember Katie Richardson? I was like, game over. Yes. We're doing it. But that's that feeling. I think these agency owners I've talked to recently and the others is like someone to keep things on track so they can go out and if they need to turn a corner and go focus on sales for, a week or a day or whatever it is, to know everything over here is handled. The flow is working.
I've worked with agencies of many different sizes from, 3 people up to 50 people. And 3 people, you're probably not going to have a dedicated project manager yet, or you're looking to bring one on. And you're looking at, from an agency owner's perspective, if you could delegate client communications and daily check-ins or every other day check-ins with your staff, open requests from clients, all of those things to somebody else, how much more time will you have for those other projects that you can only do yourself? And I tell you, Cory, all the time, I have never worked with a manager or a director who hasn't needed a little bit of coaching when it comes to delegation. It's like, okay, how many of these things on your plate are things that only you with your background, your experience can do? And what can you teach somebody else to take care of and learn to let go? And so that's a journey that, especially if you're looking to grow as an agency and you're looking to add that skill set in, that's an question to ask yourself probably often as you divest yourself of some of those hats.
Absolutely. I'll be the first one to raise my hand on that. Is no, you need it. For the bulk of my career, I felt like, okay, the things I don't know are the easiest to release. Find someone that knows that well and release it. What I'm learning through our experience, and I think this is similar to the agency trying to grow, trying to scale to get to a higher altitude where they can do what they want to do what they do best and find enjoyment and fulfillment from. But that release, I always said in the beginning when I started my entrepreneurial journey, almost 17 years ago, hey, I'm not a micromanager because I don't know. I realized, no, that's not fully true. That, as we've talked, it's that letting go. And I'm just sharing my own personal experience to go, we get it. We're working through this, but to release, to go, okay, can I really truly take my hand off the handlebar so that I can use the other hand to go focus on what I need to do best? That's where we're going back to staffing here. Like project management, project manager comes back to staffing. You want it consistent. Can we trust that person? Do they know what they're going to do? Are they going to go in the right direction that I need them to go? My personal thing that I'm working through is the quality element. I realize I have this standard that is way above I can even produce, but going, okay, it's okay, Cory, to release this to other people and to do it so that I can be freed up to think about something else.
Yeah. And learning that done is better than perfect, which is another conversation you and I have often.
Yes.
If you're going to hold out for perfect and perfection, you're going to be waiting an awfully long time. And the tech space doesn't give you the luxury of waiting. We gotta go.
Yeah. The analogy I hear a lot, specifically in tech and startups, is, you got to build the plane while you're in the air. And that's so much of entrepreneurship, but also our agency owners, is they're trying to do something, make some turns while they're in flight and need to keep that altitude and that trust part and delegation part. And but it's a true ceiling where we go, okay, it's the next evolution of what we're doing. Why I'm embracing it is to go, oh, I can be better if I can learn to kind of let things go and delegate. But also that trust factor. What's great is when we have a meeting as our team's project manager, it's reminded me, okay, hey, here are the key things, because I'm on to the new, I want to the next. But hey, by the way, we still got to do these things, right? And helping me finish things, which is so key for me. And when I think about agency owners, understanding, here's my philosophy, is that if you start a business, you should optimize for your own happiness and your own success, whatever that is. Now, that doesn't mean we run over a team or we're belligerent to clients or anything like that. It just means, like, what I always try to center our entrepreneurs on is it really needs to be about you. It's not all about you, but at the core, if the things aren't working right, the equation is off. You had some vision, some spark of a dream when you started the business. And I always like to anchor back. So what do you want? And I think you just mentioned a little bit ago about scale. So, anytime I'm thinking about this, we are the community growth team, which is really, for our partners here, it's the agency growth team. We're about your growth, whatever that means to you. But when you mention the scale thing, is as you're trying to kind of grow and do more and get to whatever cruising altitude that your goal is or wherever the next step is, I always try to anchor people back on that. But when you talk about scale and you've seen and worked with agency owners, what things pop up for that?
Have you ever heard of cats before? Trying to keep a project in scope sometimes with some clients is just like herding cats. Things are going everywhere. You're not really able to keep things going in a straight line. So being that, border collie of a person who is going to keep things in a specific area without it going off the rails. And then being also willing to maintain boundaries with clients and say, hey, look, this is what our contract says. That's out of scope. We can do it later at cost. And learning too that boundaries aren't a bad thing. Saying no is not a bad word. Even if money is good, sometimes it's best to say no. So learning how to, either as an agency owner who's taking on that project management role within your company, or if you employ a project manager, working on drawing that line for your clients. And even from the very beginning of a project as well, that setting client expectations from the get-go make it so much easier to maintain them as you work through either a long-term project or a maintenance client. Stepping into manage client relationships as a project manager with long-term clients is probably the most difficult role I've ever had, because there's a lot of history, a lot of, well, so-and-so didn't run things that way. And so working on reinforcing kind of those boundaries, those lines in the sand.
Gosh, this one, learning to say no, another one I'm continuing to learn. And I get it from the agency owner perspective and entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's hard to say no when you're like, this project can net us this. And that's always up to where those boundaries are and limits are always up to the agency owner. They know their business best and when it's to say no. But I know the tension and stress of, if I say no, that means potentially, I go, obviously sometimes the worst case scenario, we're not going to land that project and we're going to be out of that revenue for that period of time. How are we going to make it up? And that's where fear sets in, fear and frustration, common things I've dealt with as an entrepreneur. Fear, worst case scenario, what am I going to do if I say no to this project and they balk and they go somewhere else? The frustration of trying to get the work done. But this topic you brought up, which is learning to say no, that's a very nuanced one, and so tough. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a critical part of being a business owner in general, but also an agency owner. When you know, like, we need to get this income, we may compromise a little bit and say maybe or yes, and then what's the results of that? And that's always the learning, as we go. Flying the plane it's in midair and trying to build it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen relationships with clients where you say yes, but then they toe that line and push it a little bit, push your yes a little farther, and a little farther, a little farther. Projects, get delayed, they go on hiatus, and then suddenly you're not pulling in that last bit of income from, the final delivery of a project or something. So at some point, even saying yes is going to cost you money. Cost you money, cost you time, cost you staffing and ability to switch to a new project. So there's a lot of balancing between the yeses and nos.
100%. And finding that right boundary and knowing how to communicate that so key. I struggle with it. If I say no, how am I going to say no? Mm-hmm. And keep what we do, our experience, our expertise, our brand, our team on a level set. That's a tight thing to fly for sure. Okay, so we've talked about so far. We've talked about money and revenue, sales and marketing, always key thing. Emphasis on MRR, recurring revenue, so that we can navigate the feast and famine, normalize it a little bit more. And we talked about people. We've talked about saying no, and let's see, this last one we missed, project management, keeping everything going on a consistent manner. So all of that comes from our experiences, just talking to, knowing agency owners, seeing it from a distance, being embedded in one like you have on multiple times, living with an agency owner. It's a really tough job. And that's why I think in WordPress overall, and maybe the web, agency owners, it's such a tough job. It's hard to navigate these. And oftentimes you just don't have the support, the collaboration you need. And that's where all of this comes from, our experiences and listening. And as we are putting this team together, and our vision for the future is, how do we just come alongside agency owner and show up as a partner, as a collaborator? But I know one of the problems I've seen personally, it's a personal pet peeve of mine. I've seen it with hosting partner programs. Now, notice in those those key problems that we've talked about. We didn't even mention hosting. We talked about the facets of running a business and complexity of that. We didn't talk about that. One beef I have is that most hosting programs are very short term. They ask one question, of the agency owner, what are you going to do for me? You look at the things and you're like, cool, they're giving them a little bit of stuff, but what they really want is, how many sites can you put on our hosting program or platform? Yeah. And that's where our approach in A2s is so different. We care. This is a long-term relationship. And we know these issues that our agency owners deal with. And these are just a glimpse of some of the bigger ones we've heard and seen and witnessed. But I think it's a problem. Our team is set up differently. We want to show over time consistently. We just want to show up as your collaborators. It's a tough job you have to navigate. We get you. But the more we hear, Katie, from our agency owners about these problems, struggles, and challenges that might not be just related to the hosting platform that they're on, the better you and I, our team, are going to be able to help show up as collaborators, as a resource hub for them.
Yes. We are just two people with just two people's worth of experiences and perspectives. But an agency owner now is going to have a different perspective than an agency owner 5-10 years ago. Is going to have a different perspective than, in one part of the country versus another, or, working primarily in a nonprofit sector versus not. So one of the things that we really, really want to emphasize is that this program is not just about Cory and Katie. It's not the Cory and Katie and A2 show, honestly. It's about, hey, friend in the agency space, let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Let's hear about what's going on in WordPress, in tech, in your life as an agency owner that we can help maybe shed some light on, make a connection, have a conversation, share that load a little bit.
And as it's an invitation to you all listening to this and now and into the future, is we're here and we want to listen, we want to understand, and see what we can do about it. And our team is set up to number one, connect with you and listen, and then collaborate. Sometimes that might be, okay, we hear this current problem you're having, like we mentioned project management. Well, we've got a great project manager on our team, Katie. Let's talk about this story to give you ideas and inspiration to get through or around those challenges. But we need to hear from you. And one of the things we didn't want to do, you and I, starting this, is just presume we know what you need. So in this, we're trying to say, we get these problems, we hear them, we understand them. But what else and how can we help are the first questions that we always ask. Not to try to presume to create something new that we think is going to be great, but for our invitation is help us co-create that for you. Mm-hmm. I know as we've talked, Katie, we want to be the team you thought you didn't realize you had. The team that, you two, between you two and our resources and our friends and our network, got a lot of resources. Some of that might be this problem we hear about. Let's go find some ideas and inspiration, failures and successes for that problem to give you some ideas. If there are other ways, we're just here kind of putting the door open and saying, we're here for you. Help us shape that for you in the best way possible. And so many agency owners are going to come in with unique, goals, unique team setup, unique client approaches. We're here to say it's a one story together. You don't have to just do it on your own. We're here to be more than just a partner. Our team is showing this is collaboration, and curiosity is another. So we're going to show up with you curious and then ask, how can we help? How can we support you better? We want to nail the key things as part of your hosting partner, which is not to have to worry about these annoying problems. We want to show up with a great platform that WordPress is blazingly fast on. Our founder, Brian, our team are always working on that. In fact, probably this week, working on more performance optimizations with our stack, which we have control of. Second, you mentioned is the dashboard, Turbo Hub, place to go in, to live in, to do your work, building and maintaining sites. And third is that support team, fire rescue. When something happens, coming in, and there's great things happening already at A2 to even enhance that more and more. But Katie, as I put that out there, collaboration, what hits you? When you think about an agency owner listening to this, we want to show up, we care, we get you. What stands out to you?
One of the coolest things about working in the WordPress space for a really long time is how many people have just a general inclination to collaborate. In no other industry will you see competitors be friends in the same way that they are in the WordPress space. And that's the same with agency owners. So getting the opportunity to help connect folks to learn from each other, I think is going to be one of our favorite parts of the work that we do.
Well, so here's your invitation is to collaborate. And right now we're trying to go with less ideas and more listening. But back to these questions, how can we best support you? We don't want to assume we want your help in creating the next generation of what this looks like for you. We know at A2, our success is your success is our success. It's a true collaboration. It's a true partnership. So we want to talk and we want to listen and understand the challenges you face, what your needs are, and then simply go to work and see how we can help you. One of the key ways to do that, hit the YouTube comments right here. Or you can also email us at community@a2hosting.com. That goes by Katie and I. And then I'd say last is you can hit the webpage, which is a2hosting.com/agency growth. And there'll be a form there to get in contact with us. But really, we know you may not know us, but we're trying to show up and just say, we're here. How can we help you? We want to listen. If it connects in with the products and services we offer, absolutely, that's first and foremost. But second is, what else? What else do you have going on? And how can we help you best?